Hello.
Oh, it beeped at me.
It's YouTube.
Okay.
It's your
Three.
boy,
Hey.
Caston some
Right.
Hello, YoTub. It's your boy,
You know what I just realized?
Professor Will.
What?
Waluigi might be the new master hand in the new Smash.
Oh, boy.
That's gonna be one of the bloopers now.
Ryan.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Historically Inaccurate. Oftentimes, history can feel pointless, but my job is to make it a little less that way. I'm way too close. Sorry. There you go. Today we are starting our first mini-series of this channel, PsycHistory. We are going to be looking into some basic principles of psychology and tying them back to our history. Whether you're here for the history or the psychology, or just my beautiful face, you're bound to learn something new. Now let's explore the science of persuasion, and some famous examples of its use. Simply put, the science of persuasion is really just a collection of 6 moral shortcuts utilized by the brain. Whether our brain is forced to make a decision, it will generally choose a path of least resistance. If our brain detects certain shortcuts to a quicker decision, it will often be convinced of things it normally wouldn't. These 6 proven shortcuts consist of reciprocity, which is when we are gifted anything, our brain often feels an obligation to gift in return. Think about the last time you were given a gift by a friend, but you didn't have a gift for them. You probably felt guilty.
What if I don't have friends?
That's a problem. That is the root of this tactic.
Having friends is the greatest tactic.
Next, we have scarcity, which is where we want more of what there is less of. If you were given a choice between 2 similar items, but you know one is rarer, wouldn't you take the rarer? This is a great example of how this principle functions. Next, we have credibility, which is where we are more likely to invest our beliefs in those with good credentials or the authority over us. Knowing this, persuaders will often establish their credentials before speaking a single word so that they convince others of their viewpoints. Next, we have consistency, which is a confusing keyword for this, but really it's just we often don't want to make large commitments, especially if it's for a cause or person that we don't necessarily understand or agree with. That is why this principle works. Consistency is asking for small commitments that are slowly increase as you go. Just remember, whenever you get a commitment from someone, always get it in writing, because oftentimes they will forget it later on. Next, we have liking, which you may be wondering, what actually causes someone to like you? There's only 3 main factors that affect this that pretty much any argumentative expert can be found using. The first is similarity, compliments, and cooperation. Next, we have consensus. We often follow the actions of others and make decisions that line up with the majority of the population. Now, next time you and your friends make a decision, notice that you will often want to side with the rest of your friends, even if the decision is not necessarily the smartest. Now back to the history. Today we are going to be looking into the works of Thomas Paine, an American activist that may very well have lit the spark of revolution. Thomas Paine was most revered for his political pamphlet Common Sense, which was written in 1776. This pamphlet was treasonous at the time. It was basically written to convince the 13 colonies to drop Great Britain like a sack of potatoes.
I thought it was a hot potato.
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Interjections, excuse me.
They passed around the plate like
Excuse
a
me.
hot potato.
So how did Thomas Paine convince so many Americans of his radical revolutionary ideas? Let's find out. If you read the Common Sense, which is not the most exciting read, you will start to notice that it is a very convincing pamphlet, and it must have been to ignite such a revolution. My nose itches. However, if you look really closely, Thomas Paine uses the 6 fundamental shortcuts that we talked about. For example, Paine utilizes reciprocity in his closing thoughts, where he states, "I bid you farewell, sincerely wishing you may always fully and uninterruptedly enjoy every civil and religious right, and be in your turn the means of securing it to others, but that the example which ye have unwisely set of mingling religions with politics may be disavowed and reprobated by every inhabitant of America." Paine 35. So, although Thomas Paine never actually gives anyone anything, The same basic principle functions here. I will oversimplify this a little bit to make it more clear. Basically, Thomas Paine is saying, I wish you to always have the freedom of choice. However, I think that mixing religion and politics is a stupid idea. As you can tell, he is giving his blessings for freedom of choice, and your brain will immediately start to wonder how it can repay this. Paine, clever as a fox, states almost as an aside that he simply desires no mixing of politics and religion, purposely avoiding asking outright for it. Kind of like when you want a present for your birthday, but you don't want to ask for it, so you just keep bringing it up around your friends. This tactic causes your mind to accept Paine's word as a truth, as a sort of repayment for his kindness. Next, let's look at how Thomas Paine uses scarcity principle in his pamphlet. In this quote, Thomas Paine sets up tyranny as commonplace, and the government he wants, what he calls a glorious rescue, as one of a kind. Quote, when the world was overrun with tyranny, the least removed therefrom was a glorious rescue. But that it is imperfect, subject to convulsions, and incapable of producing what it seems to promise is easily demonstrated. Paine 3. In one fell swoop, Paine sets up his ideals as rare and very valuable to the American people per the rule of scarcity, and manages to slam any other government as tyrannical, which he describes as inefficient and imperfect. This is a perfect example of how to utilize scarcity in debate. Next is credibility. While Thomas is introducing his ideals for the American government, he draws his ideas from the form of government from a principle in nature with no art can overturn.
Ooh, let's restart that. It's kind of my fault. Sorry.
Next is credibility. Oh, I gotta run though. I actually have to run.
Okay,
I
bye.
can leave my stuff here.
So,
Hey guys, so we lost Will to band class.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a school day, so
You can hear all the people walking around, so you know.
I get to take
Buddy
over.
Ryan right here. He's
This is
taking
gonna go so
over.
well.
He's also
Will's
gonna have a computer in his lap because he needs to change his
Dude,
slides.
Will's gonna be so mad. He's gonna be so mad when you edit the video, and it's just gonna change to me.
He's gonna change
It's gonna
to
be so
Ryan.
good.
Okay. Enjoy the video, guys.
This is credibility.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out how to scroll
Just
this.
Pull on the thingy. See, I have a hard job, Ryan. Next is credibility. While Thomas is introducing his ideals for the American government, he explains, I draw my idea of the form of government from a principle in nature which no art can overturn. Paine 3. Nothing is more credible than nature itself. It created everything, including us. Paine, utilizing such a credible resource for his ideals, can more easily make such a bold statement as rejecting the crown, which is a huge part of the success of common sense. Throughout common sense, Paine wisely uses strong credibility for his radical ideals. On to the fourth persuasive principle, consistency. In one of his introductory paragraphs, Paine explains, in the following pages, I will offer nothing more than simple facts, plain arguments, and common sense, and have no other preliminaries to settle with the reader than that he will divest himself of prejudice and prepossession, and generously enlarge his views beyond the present day. Paine 10. So in this example, Paine starts out small, simply asking the viewer to begin reading with an open mind. This prepares the reader to take more intense liberal ideals presented in later sections by slowly increasing the radical nature of his thoughts on this pamphlet. This is how he convinces conservatives to at least continue reading and hopefully change their ideals by the end of his pamphlet. Now, Thomas also uses the principle of liking in common sense. However, it was really hard to find a good example of it. While expressing his thoughts on Britain, Paine states, it is needless to spend much time in exposing the folly of hereditary right. If there are any so weak as to believe it, let them promiscuously worship the ass. Am I allowed to say that?
Are we allowed to say that on YouTube?
I hope so. And lion, and welcome. I shall neither copy their humility, nor disturb their devotion. Paine, pages 8 through 9. Thomas Paine, although somewhat insulting the British way of life, also states that he will not mess with their devotion in any way. This is an example of utilizing cooperation, one of the fundamental pillars of liking, to hopefully win over those who support the crown. It is kind of a bittersweet example. However, it could prevent a much larger opposition from those supporting the British crown when they read his pamphlet. Last but not least, Thomas Paine incorporates the persuasion tactic of consensus in this common sense pamphlet. Quote, "The laying a country desolate with fire and sword, declaring war against the natural rights of all mankind, and extirpating the defenders thereof from the face of the earth, is the concern of every man whom nature hath given the power of feeling." Paine, page 1. Paine is declaring that when a huge Paine is declaring that when a huge force, such as the British Empire, has denied rights from humankind, it is everyone's job to end its reign. He uses consensus through stating the problem to be a major concern on everyone's mind. This drives the reader's want to hop on the bandwagon and support those opposing the British atrocities. And that is all I have today on Science of Persuasion. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you will use this new knowledge of the past sometime in the future. I'm not Professor Will. I'm not even a professor. I'm Ryan. And this has been the first episode of PsycHistory. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Okay, we done.
Okay. Thumbs up. Come on, Ryan,
Alright,
let's go.
let's take Will's stuff back.
Let's go.
Maybe turn off the camera too.
Oh, that would be smart.
Yeah.
Phone.
Okay, guys, so we found Will's phone. He left it here. So
What are we gonna do?
Break him real fast.
What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna gently lay it on a chair and then pick it back up. He'll never know.
He'll never know. He'll never see it coming.
Alright, let's get moving.
Is this his computer too?
Yeah.
His computer's unlocked. A new challenger has appeared. His computer.
Oh no.
It would be really funny if we had
We're good. Let's
Okay.
go.
Yep, now we're good.
Gotta
All
take
right.
the multiple mice that we
Here's the
brought.
behind the scenes tour of our video. That's where I sat when I was moving the slides. That's where Will sat when he was
Will's
talking.
computer?
That's where Ryan sat where he
I broke my
computers.
index finger while scrolling.
haha
It was pretty great.
carpal tunnel
Carpal tunnel syndrome.
I
I don't have it yet.
I thought that was right, but
It's only a matter of time, isn't it?
okay, see you guys.